Welcome to the Digital Maddy Show. This is a platform where I share my knowledge on video creation, digital marketing, chatbot marketing, and how to grow your business through video making. I also invite many influencers and digital marketers on this show and ask amazing questions to extract their secrets of business. Let's get started with your host. Hi, my name is Mithyl and I'm a YouTube and video creation coach, and I help aspiring video influencers to create and monetize their content through video making. Today we have an amazing guest on our show. She is an empowerment coach. She is already into the studio. Let's welcome her. So let's welcome Marta to our show. Let me introduce herself. She is a writer, podcaster, and an empowerment coach. Her focus is teaching women how to increase their self-esteem and improve self-image by going on a deep dive in inner work and personal development. Through her podcast, The Empowered Women, her virtual self-improvement school, and in-person workshops, she hopes to encourage and uplift women to step into their own power and realize they can do it all. So let's welcome once again Marta to our show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Most welcome. So Marta, let me ask you one of my favorite questions. What's your favorite quote that keeps you motivated on a daily basis?
Okay, so one of my favorite ones, I have many, but one of the ones that really connect with my message and what I try to do every single day for myself and for other women too, is a quote that I found. I don't even know who it is by. I found it on Pinterest when I was looking at boards for specific colors, and it took me to like little girl room decor, which is not what I was looking for. But then I came up this quote that says, "To my daughter, I will say, see your beauty without a compliment and without a mirror." And I love that so much because it's really what I have been learning to do to myself, to tell myself that I can see my beauty, my worth, my potential, my power, my individuality, my uniqueness without having to have somebody show it to me or tell me. I have to be able to do that myself, because that's where true fulfillment comes from, is when you're able to recognize your greatness.
Yes, so we are talking about inner beauty over here. Great.
Yes.
Lovely. So since all the people are listening to this show, Marta, would you like to share your backstory to us?
Yes, of course. So I'm originally from Brazil, born and raised, but from a young age, I was very, very obsessed with English, the American culture. That's something that's very pervasive in Brazil. It's, American movies and music and series. And I just developed this desire for learning English, and I had a really easy time with it. And it came to a point when I was 14 that my friends and even people from church were asking me to help them learn English. And I started teaching, and it really got into becoming my profession before I even had to choose what I was going to do. I was kind of already an entrepreneur, getting paid to teach. And it turned into me going to school to become an interpreter. I still work as an interpreter now. And languages has always been something very dear to me. I just love people and understanding other cultures and other ways of seeing life and seeing the world. And I feel like learning a language really is learning more about a people, because it's so connected to culture and so connected to a way of being, a lifestyle. And always doing this kind of stuff. I got my master's in linguistics. Everything had always to do with languages until I was blessed with a pregnancy, super unexpected. I was trying to get pregnant, but unexpectedly got pregnant with triplets. And that was a huge turning point, obviously. 3 kids at the same time from my first pregnancy. I actually had them in Brazil at the time. So I went on and married an American and moved to the US. We lived here for 3 years, and then we moved to Brazil. And in Brazil, I had the babies. And after a while, we decided to move back just because, financially it would be better for us and for the kids in the future. There were so many reasons involved, but we moved back when they were 9 months old. And I found myself in such a different situation, being a stay-at-home mom full-time to 3 babies. It was very different from anything I'd ever known, obviously, but on such a bigger scale. And I decided that I needed something for myself. And lots of people, even to this day, kind of think I'm crazy to add something else on when you say, you have triplets, there's no time to do anything else. But I realized that I needed to take care of myself. I needed time for me. And that started looking like encouraging other women, because at the same time I was encouraging myself. I started sharing my struggles, of feeling lonely or feeling isolated because of my role as a full-time stay-at-home mom. And lots of women started resonating with that. And it took a lot of fine-tuning, because I think I was growing too as a person and within my business too, until I realized that I wanted to talk to women in general. It wasn't just moms, because lots of women that are not moms resonate with this message, or that are looking into being moms understand that they need to start taking care of themselves because life is about to change. So it really started like that. And at first, it seems like there was no connection with my background of languages. Now, all of a sudden, you're a coach. And I've come to realize that it has everything to do with my past, because it is, again, wanting to understand people, wanting to see how they, see life, and helping them with the encouragement to move on. Because this is what I do as a teacher too, is always, seeing the best in the students, and when they think they can't, encouraging them to see that they can. So it's been interesting how things unfolded, and I still work as an interpreter too. And I'm about to start actually teaching at a college here, an interpretation course in the fall. So I'm excited about that. So just combining my different teachings between languages, and what I like to call really the language of self-love now, because we learn different languages. We learn, different registers. The way you talk to your boss is not the same way you talk to your wife, right? And the way you talk to yourself is very specific too. And I don't think we pay close enough attention to that. But that's really the foundation for everything in life.
So technically, Marta, are you trying to say you are a Wonder Woman who's trying to take care of the 3 kids, handle a podcast, and transforming women?
Yes, pretty much. But at the same time, and this is a part of my message too, is that lots of people look at me as inspiration to say, wow, you do all these things. But many of them kind of just stay there into saying, wow, I could never do that because you're so amazing. And my goal has been to say, you get to do whatever you want to do. Even if you don't have triplets, I'm sure you've had challenges in your life. I'm sure you've had hard things, happen. And this is one of the things that I've come to understand too, is that you can't measure, right? Oh, she's had a harder life. She's had an easier life. We can't do that, because every path is so unique. Right? So understanding how unique your path is and stop comparing will help you really be in tune with yourself and enjoy life to its most, to the best of your ability, when you stop looking at others and really focus on looking at yourself. And yes, look at me as inspiration, but to start your own path of transformation, and to be able to be inspiration for the people around you too.
Agreed. Totally agreed. So first of all, congratulations for your triplet, and wish you
Thank
all
you.
the best for the new assignment that you're going to get to teach, I think, about the thing in the fall.
Yes, interpretation, yes.
Yes, interpretation. So, Marta, you are an empowerment coach. So can you share what is empowerment?
Yes. So, there's different definitions, and I feel like everybody has their unique definition of what it makes them feel empowered, because again, our path is very, very unique, right? What for some, having a lot of money may mean empowerment. For others may mean I am, taking care of my family by being a stay-at-home mom and not working outside of the home. So it's very, very personal. And that's where I feel like there is kind of a misconception, because we end up looking for the definition of things in other people's lives. And that can get really, really frustrating, because you start thinking, okay, so I'm looking at this person's life on Instagram and it looks like happiness means X, Y, and Z. And then you start working really, really hard to get there. And maybe you do get there. And once you're there, you realize that's not really what you wanted. That's not really what makes you happy or feel successful or empowered. So for me, empowerment really is taking full responsibility for finding what makes you feel happy and empowered and successful, and pursuing that, and not blaming anybody as reasons or excuses that you can't get what you want, because that's a thing that women do a lot. And it's hard in many ways, but I'm just going to say it. We victimize ourselves a lot, I think, as human beings in general, but women do that because it's easier to say, my husband is in my way. He doesn't support me, or my kids take up a lot of my time. And all those things, of course, they play a huge part, right? But at the end of the day, the only thing that you can really control is yourself. You can't control your husband. You can't control your kids. But there is a time in the day that you can dedicate to yourself. Your mind, it's still yours. So you can still pay closer attention to your thoughts and to your feelings. So for me, empowerment is taking responsibility for your happiness, not expecting somebody else to be there for you all of the time, because there is no such thing. Nobody can be there for another person 100% of the time, but you can do that for yourself.
Yes, I totally resonate with what you're trying to say. If you give me the permission, I would like to break down empowerment into something just clicked me right now. So it's like something called as empower me tactfully.
Yes.
Empowerment.
Yeah. It really has to be intentional, because and that's where, the victimizing yourself comes into play, because you're just sitting there waiting. You're not really doing anything, right? You're waiting for your husband to see that you cut your hair or that you clean the house. And if he doesn't say anything, you get disappointed. And here's another thing too, I think is very important, is that being empowered means understanding yourself so well that you can fulfill your own needs without expecting other people to do it for you. And that also allows you to understand people better, because you'll start, and there's so many personality tests, and there's something you may be familiar with. It's very, very famous, called the love languages, that people have different love languages, right? So your husband may not really care for words of affirmation. He doesn't care if you tell him, wow, honey, you did a great job. He just wants you to perform or to do a task that makes him happy. And so oftentimes we use the language that we like on others, right? And it doesn't work. And you're banging your head against a wall, wondering why you're not getting the return or getting recognized. And that's because, first and foremost, you need to understand yourself. And that, by default, will allow you to understand others, because you will see, wow, I have insecurities and I have strengths. And so does that other person too, but their insecurities and strengths are different. So it's really kind of like a puzzle. And that's what I've been so passionate about, is understanding how human beings are individual puzzles, because, we're a product of our parents, of our environment, of our schools, our cities, our countries, our church, so many different facets of us. And we spend our entire lives wanting people to like who we are instead of figuring out who we are and just owning it.
True, absolutely. And I think since it's a puzzle, and these puzzles are actually controlled by everyone who you just named right now, but it actually takes a lot of time for this puzzle to come together and become one feature, which is you. And I think that's when empowerment comes inside, and you realize who you are and what's your main purpose over here.
Yes, exactly. And this is one thing that's been so beautiful for me to develop this while my kids are growing. So they're 4 years old, very, very young. But it's been interesting to see how them being 3 different separate people, although they were born the same day, they're being raised at the same time by the same people in very similar circumstances. They're very different. They already have energy. Yes. And they already have certain desires that the others don't really care for, or certain inclinations or aptitudes even. One is very good at something while the other isn't really, but they excel in something else. They're 4, and this already shows, and life is just going to build even more upon that. But it goes to show that everyone is born with this individual essence, and we spend a lot of our adult life trying to copy other people's essence that we think it's good, interesting. Well, you can't, because everything started, a certain way, and then you had your individual path. And it takes a while. It really takes a while. And that's something that I've been noticing too, when I meet younger women that are not married, that don't have kids, and they look up to me a lot because they haven't gone through lots of different things. And it really takes time and maturity, right, for you to start looking at yourself in a different way. But it's never too early, I think, or too late to start asking yourself those questions. What do I really like? How can I recognize myself today? And things like that.
Cool. So you started your journey helping people learn English to now almost becoming an interpreter. So how did you get into empowerment coaching?
So it really started with having the triplets. It's kind of this thing that dawned on me that I've spent a lot of my life encouraging people in the classroom with English into saying, no, you can do it. Because again, people say, oh my gosh, you learned it so well. You never lived abroad. How are you so good? And to me, it was like, well, you have to practice. You have to really submerge yourself in that culture and listen to the music. And what I used to do before the internet was big, I would put CDs and I would listen to just a couple verses. I would pause it and I would write down what I thought I heard, because it wasn't so easy. Depending on the album that you had, they didn't have the lyrics on, and it wasn't so easy to just search, Google lyrics. They didn't have that. So for somebody that doesn't speak the language, and sometimes even for natives, it's hard to understand what they're singing. I just practiced a lot. That was like my world, was practicing. And now I see that this is the same process and really the same importance that we should be giving to what we're telling ourselves every single day, because that's how people become successful. Entrepreneurs, athletes, is what they're telling themselves every day. Of course, surrounding themselves with people that are encouraging them, right? With coaches that tell them you can do this and push them and challenge them. But also that inner talk is so important, because it's what moves you forward or holds you back. And that's kind of like what I found myself in, raising triplets, and people asking me, how do you do it? And it's like, I have no other choice. I can't just lay in bed all day. I have to get up. I have to feed them, even if it's really hard. And that's when I understood that I needed to foster that more, because I wouldn't have somebody next to me every day telling me, hey, Marta, you can do this. I had to be the one telling me that, because my kids even couldn't do that, and my husband was at work. So it was really proving to myself that I could do anything, because I could never imagine being in that situation, especially raising them away from my family, because we moved back and my husband's family is not even close to us. They live in another state. So it was really just me for 3 years until they started school. And coaching other women was really what helped me in this process into saying, hey, you can do this. But really, I was telling myself I could do this,
Yeah, so basically you're trying to help others, and in bargain, you just helped yourself and self-healed
Yes.
yourself.
Yes, exactly. And this is one thing that I've heard other teachers or even ministers in church say, that some people, and I truly believe that, that are born with this desire and the gift to teach, they have that because they need it, right? Usually there's so many catchphrases that I love. Your mess is your message, or your test is your testament, because it is so true. The thing that you end up being the best at is because you really enjoy that, and you need that to help you with your thought process of, instead of being super quiet and just getting lost in my thoughts and getting in my head so much, I prefer to talk because then it helps me process what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. And in turn, people listening are helped too. And other people have other gifts. Other people would do anything except sit or stand in front of others to talk, but they're very organized and they can, help organize events. And so there are different, everyone is very different. And the same way that I need the people that are introverts and that help me organize and get organized, they need me to be that voice.
So thank you so much for being that voice and giving power to all those people who are actually in need of it. So once again, thank you so much.
Yes. Oh, you're welcome.
Sometime back, you said that people listen to a lot of things, people listen to a lot of people, but they should listen to themselves more and they should love themselves more. So,
Yes.
but that is often like, they just don't do that, or even if they don't do to the level which is required. So, how does
Hmm.
empowerment have to do with self-love?
Yeah. So I think it's got everything to do with self-love. And I I think self-love has become pretty cliche. Lots of different things with the internet become cliche. You have hashtags, you have t-shirts, and you have all the things, and which is good to spread a message, but at the same time, it kind of loses its value. It loses its importance because it's, of course I love myself. I never thought of hurting myself. I only want what's best for me. But we forget that every single day we are disrespecting ourselves a little bit. And this is where feeling empowered and self-love come into play, is when you understand that when you don't enforce boundaries with relationships, you're disrespecting yourself, therefore you're not loving yourself. When you work yourself to exhaustion, you are disrespecting yourself. That is a lack of self-love, right? And usually the motivation behind all of these things of, I'm not going to set these boundaries in this relationship, I am going to work myself to death, is because we are wanting to be recognized. We're seeking that external validation, right? So if I work a little bit harder, I'm going to make a little bit more money. I'm going to buy that car. People are going to think I'm amazing. Or if I work a little bit harder, my boss is going to see how I'm putting in the effort. He's going to give me a raise. Like, it's never about you feeling fulfilled with what you're doing. Most times, it's about what it's going to look like. And then we end up living this vicious cycle of, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for people. I don't get the recognition that I need, so I will work even harder, or I will do something different, or I'll feel frustrated that nobody recognized me. And then you live this life of unfulfillment, when in reality, you should be realizing that you need to approve of it first. You need to love what you're doing and yourself first, because then not only will your relationships improve because you won't be putting as much pressure on people. We do that a lot, and especially as women, we expect people to recognize us, right? You expect, again, the husband to recognize the work that you're doing, or your kids to not be ungrateful and eat the food that you made. And again, you can't control those things. You can do your best. And that's another thing that I realized too, even thinking back to my mom and the resentment that I had built, because usually as kids, there are certain things that you kind of wish your parents had done differently. And then you become a parent and you're like, ooh, now I see why they did what they did. This is hard. And you end up even, developing more gratitude and even forgiveness for your parents because you're in their shoes somewhat. And then you realize that there is nothing that you can do to keep your kids from not liking some of the things that you do. That's just life, right? You cannot please your kids forever. There probably will be a time in their teenage years that they're going to slam the door in your face and say, I hate you, Mom, dreading that day. But those things are going to happen. And what are you going to do? Who are you going to lean on those times, Because we can't rely on people all the time. And I grew up Christian. I truly believe, there's a force besides us. But another thing that I've come to realize is that I believe God, or whatever it is that's bigger than us, wants us to be independent and to value ourselves, because isn't that what he does for us, right? So why wouldn't we want to love ourselves and appreciate who we are if we were created by him, And so I truly believe that self-love does not exclude love for your family. It does not even exclude your love for God. But it is the beginning of understanding your value so that you can then value the people around you. And then they will value you too, because you're not putting so much pressure on them.
Wow, that's like a value bomb. Boom.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, the next question that I'm going to ask, since many people who are listening, they are able to, like me, are able to relate to what you're trying to say, that most of the people inside are empty, even though they have more than 1,000 friends on Facebook or on Instagram,
Yep.
but yet they don't have that actual friend that they deserve, and that's themselves. So this question, I think, is going to give a lot of answers to a lot of people, and I'm pretty excited to know the answer too. So Marta, what are the things you do daily to empower yourself?
Yes. So I love this question because I don't have a definite answer for it. And this is really I have some things that I can share, but it really goes back to what I truly believe empowerment means, that you have to figure out your path yourself. And as human beings, that's kind of counterintuitive because we want that formula, right? You want that diet. You want the recipe. Tell me what all I need. I will follow it to a T, and I want to see the results. Except we are individuals, right? We're very, very different. And what may work for you for a couple weeks may not work for you a couple weeks later. And so it's really up to you being so in tune with yourself that you know that if I don't wake up and do my 10 minutes of yoga, I am not going to be ready for the day. But maybe somebody else is completely different and they need to just do a dance party the first thing in the morning, or they just need to, drink their water and journal. And this is what I encourage people to do, is really finding what works for you. And besides that, understanding that that's not the only thing that you need to do in your day. Okay, I have my morning practice, because that's a big thing in the self-help world, is have that morning routine. You have to set yourself up for your day for success by first thing in the morning, putting your mind in the right headspace. Except that doesn't account for when somebody cuts you off in traffic an hour later, or when your boss yells at you, or whatever it is that happens after that throughout the day. Well, I set myself up for success and then this thing came. What do? Do I need to do my morning routine again real quick here so that it'll empower me again? And maybe you can't do it, So besides having something to start off your day, I really encourage you to start paying closer attention and really develop that self-awareness, which will come with time, just like what you were saying. It really comes time for that puzzle to come together, because it does take time for you to teach yourself to pay closer attention to your reactions. And I believe understanding your personality is super important. So I would say the first thing, which is not something you would do every day, but the first thing is understanding your personality type. And there's several tests out there, but one that I really like is the Enneagram, because it really shows you your personality from like a transformative standpoint of, I have these things that are my strengths and I struggle with these other things. That doesn't mean that I will be able to eliminate my weaknesses completely, but it means that if I know I'm not so good at that, then I'm not going to go that route, right? I'm going to invest my time, my energy on things that are good, that I'm good at, that I enjoy, right? And also giving yourself grace for whenever you make mistakes, right? And whenever you have to do certain things that you're not very good at, instead of beating yourself up. So that's the very first thing, understanding your personality type. And then one practice that I really like, and that's something you can write down or just remind yourself throughout the day too, is something that I call a brag book. So people are very used right now to doing like a gratitude journal. So write 5 things you're grateful for in the morning, 5 things you're grateful for at night. And that's great. I feel like if you have the discipline and if that's something that works for you, do that. But besides that, because in the gratitude journal, you're not really in it. It's the people that you're grateful for, the things, right? The accomplishments, but you're not in there. So with a brag book, you're forced to think about yourself. What is something that I'm really proud of today? And it can be big or small. That's something that I've learned too, is that your brain doesn't really know the difference between a big accomplishment and a small accomplishment. It's the same feeling, right? It's the same high of, wow, I folded the laundry and I put it away. That's amazing. Or I just graduated from college. That's amazing too. And so remind yourself of those things. So today, I yelled at my kids, but I did cook that meal and they really enjoyed it. So remind yourself whenever you start getting in that downwards, spiral of, everything sucks. Today was a horrible day. And that's another thing that I hate, that I want people to pay attention to, is their language, right? When something happens, I hear so many people, and I grew up listening to people say this, and it always bugged me. And now more than ever saying, today is a horrible day. I had a horrible day today. Or today is not a good day for me. Like, how are you setting yourself up for success if you're already saying that the day is awful and it's not even over? Or when the day is over, you say today was a horrible day. No, look back. really look into the day and find things that you can be grateful for, because there are things to be grateful for all the time. So there are practices of things that you can do, but more so than that is developing the awareness throughout the day, and paying attention to your reaction, which is going to be very different for everybody because it's based on your personality type. So just a couple examples. I'm a type 3 on the Enneagram, and I'm very focused on like achievements and setting goals and going for things. And so for me, I could be happy if I achieved something, but I could also be very frustrated if I didn't do what I was supposed to do. So at the end of the day, instead of beating myself up for the one thing that I didn't do, I can recognize the things that I did that were great. And then tomorrow's a new day. I can try to finish the one thing that I couldn't finish, or, set myself up for finishing that thing that day. And they can vary for other people. Some other people have a harder time taking time for themselves, and they're always helping people and they don't set boundaries. So they get taken advantage of. So that's something that they need to pay closer attention to. So that's why I said it's hard for me to say exactly what you need to do. I feel like the brag book is 100% where everyone should do, but it really, really depends on your personality type and what you struggle with, and to make sure you pay attention to the positives and not the negatives, because we tend to focus on the negative way too much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marta. So all the people who are listening to this particular episode, if they want to connect with you and learn more about empowerment, is there a platform where they can connect with you?
Yes. So you can find me on my website, martaspirk.com. I'm on most social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You can just find me as Marta Spirk. And I do have my podcast, The Empowered Woman Podcast. Lots of amazing content and interviews on there that you can follow too. And finally, the Empowered Woman School, which is a membership that I have. So it is a school, and you can be both a student and a teacher in the school. And it's all focused on personal development. So everything that will help you with your mindset, with self-love, and with empowerment.
Great. So all the people who wants to learn more about empowerment and to grow within, I think you should all go to that particular link. You can find those links in the description below. So thank you so much, Marta, for being on this show. Before we end this episode, would you like to say some few words to our viewers?
Yes, of course. Just want to remind you that you are whole, you are complete. Everything that you need is already within you. You just really, really have to look within. And your next step, your next move is already within you. The answer to that one question that you're trying to find is already within you. Just take the time to listen to yourself, to love on yourself, and you will figure it out.
Wow. Awesome. So thank you so much, Marta, for being on this show. It was an honor.
Thank you. This was great. I had a great time.
Most welcome. So you are listening to the Digital Maddy Show with your host, Mithyl Dave, and we have an awesome guest, Marta, who's just spoke about empowerment. So if you're listening to this particular video on YouTube, you can subscribe to my channel. And if you're listening to your podcast, you can subscribe to my podcast. Thank you so much, Marta, once again for being on this show.
Thank you so much.